What's up, y'all? It's Chad. We are back for another week of From the Shadow, Season 2, Episode 5. Today's guest is Garett Bischoff, professional wrestler. His dad was a Hall of Fame wrestler. He helped the WCW create Monday Night Nitro. He founded the NWO, all kind of really cool things. Garett and I talk about growing up with that, in that atmosphere, the things that made him choose to become a professional wrestler, and the storyline of developing that. And then we talk the random wrestling questions that I have that I think a lot of other people probably have too. It's really interesting. I appreciate his honesty, his candor. It's just a really fun episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get into it. Have you ever wondered what it would be like growing up if your parents were famous? When the eyes of the world are on you from birth. My name is Chad Bearden, and for the last decade, I've toured the US and Canada playing country music. Along the way, I've made some amazing friends who happen to be famous or are the child of a famous person. Listen as I go backstage, behind the curtain, and talk with them about growing up in the shadow of their parents, the ups and downs of being born into fame, and their journey into making their own name and leaving their own mark on the world. Welcome to From the Shadow. All right, we're back for another episode of From the Shadow. Really excited about today's guest. This is a new one for me. We're diving into a different arena. You're my first wrestling guy to have on here. So we have Garett Bischoff in the house today. How are you, man?
Man, brother, doing great. Great.
It looks beautiful there in Florida.
It is. It's a little hot and muggy this time of year, but it's not so bad. It beats shoveling snow. Yes.
I can't do cold. So just to get in a little bit, so your dad is a Hall of Fame wrestler as well. Once he was hired by the WCW, he helped create the NWO, and really at the height of wrestling, at least to me. You and I were talking a little bit before, and I feel like that's a very memorable time in my life. We would all go over to my uncle's house, who was the only person in our family who had cable TV, and was the only way that we could watch it. But it was the height of those wars between WCW, Monday Night Nitro, and Monday Night Raw with WWF, and all of, like, when I think about wrestling, that's the time for me. So anyways, your dad was instrumental in kind of making that happen and creating the NWO. Had a really successful career as an announcer, as I guess kind of a booker, and all the above, right?
Yeah. He kind of has played or wore a lot of hats, many hats if not all of them, in some way, shape, or form, even if just for a moment or two. That you can wear in that world. He started out way at AWA back when I was too young to really even remember, and he kind of just got thrown into it. He got hired to sell syndicated television. Basically, they didn't even have an office for him. If you read his book, or you'll hear him tell stories. They basically said, well, there's a broom closet there. If you want to make it an office somehow, go for it. And he basically built his own little office, and that's kind of how it started. And then one day, the guy that was supposed to be back there doing interviews with the guys, didn't show up for work due to a hard, long night of fun, I believe.
You got arrested for DUI, right?
I don't know if he got arrested or he was just, hung over somewhere or what, but whatever the case may be, they needed someone in there, and they're like, Eric, you're up. So they threw his sport jacket on him, and The way he tells it is he sucked horribly at it, but he had a lot of fun doing it, and he just kept doing it and kept doing it. And I think that situation happened more than once.
Right.
He was whoever was supposed to be there doing it didn't show up, so he ended up filling in. And next thing you know, he was doing a commentator, and then he threw his name in the hat at WCW. He got hired through I think it seemed a fairly short amount of time. He threw his name in the hat for some promotions and ended up getting him, obviously, and worked his way up and eventually to be the president of WCW. So not only was he help with the writing, help with the creative, but he did, back before he got there, he was in the production room. He was, he did camera work, when he was younger, so yeah, he enjoys learning stuff like that. So he really,
and he was the guy that essentially went to Ted Turner, right? And was like, give me the money to do this right. Correct.
Yeah. I mean, then there was probably one or two other people involved in that meeting, but yeah, essentially it's like, let me, try, if you trust me to run with it, here's what we got to do. You kind of got to trust me to do it. And they did, and he did it. And did damn well for a long time, 83 weeks.
Yeah. So, so while you're growing up with this, like, where are you living at that point?
During WCW days, we had moved from Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's where my sister and I were both born, down to Atlanta, Georgia. So during that whole reign, we lived in Georgia. So I was there from about 6 or 7 years old when we moved there, up until 16. So about 11, 10, 11, 12 years, something like that, somewhere in there.
So are you just like every other kid our age at that point? Like, are you just immersed in it? Like, I can remember like building makeshift rings in the backyard with old mattresses and ropes. Like, a lot of times growing up in that, you're like, either it's fully embraced or you just hate it.
No, I was all about it. And, I'd skip school any chance I got, and I'd go, he'd take me in to run around the offices, the WCW offices. I knew as a kid, I knew everybody. It wasn't just the wrestlers. I knew the production guys, the lighting crew, the travel, the ladies that did all the travel. Everybody. It was like family. I probably got a better education right around those offices than I ever did at any middle school. And then of course, if there's opportunities to go to the shows, I took every opportunity I could to do that as well. So, I was all about it, definitely.
So at what point do you go, I want to be a wrestler? Like, I want to make this my career.
I think I was about 15 years old when I was like, okay, this is what I want to try. I got to do this. I want to be a part of this. I can remember because that's right when I really started getting serious. I was a skinny kid. I wasn't built big, as a child. I was worked really hard to put some size on. And I can remember at 15, 16 years old in the gym, just trying to push and push and push. When I got to high school, my freshman year, first thing I did was sign up for weight training class so I could, lift weights during school, which is probably one of the only classes I showed up to. That and lunch.
Awesome.
So school is not my strong suit by any means.
So I want to talk about, I kind of want to go backwards a little bit here because I have lots of questions, but, and lots of wrestling questions in general. So, you make your debut, you're initially debuted as a referee, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Jackson James. Yeah. So I had been going through wrestling training, for a couple years, like actual training, not just, what I saw growing up, but actual in the ring working out. And it came time to go. It's like, okay, let's, we have an opportunity here. Let's if you want to go, which by the way, my dad tried to talk me out of severely. He did not want me to get into the business. Him and my mom both supported it, but he definitely did his best to try to talk me out of it.
Right.
And make sure that I very well understood the reality of of what this business is and what it can, it can chew you up and spit you out and leave you pretty haggard if you're not careful. But anyways, so we make that decision. We go, okay, so now what are we going to do? And it was for two reasons. One, that was a way for me to also get a unique insight into the wrestling world without being a wrestler. You get to see it from a completely different way. And a lot of people don't think of the referee as part of the match. They're only focused on the talent.
Sure.
But the referee is just as, if not more important. Without a referee, what those two guys are doing doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean shit if you don't have anybody out there sanctioning, right?
Right.
So you get a very unique perspective when you see it from that side of it and you're involved in it. And it gave me a really cool opportunity to learn so much more than I ever got in training, just because you're forced to be out there doing it. You're forced to be listening, you get an earpiece in, you're hearing the production truck in your ear. You got time cues, you got commercial breaks. There's a lot of things that go on that nobody really thinks about when they're just watching the show. So it was a really cool experience. And so that was one reason. The other reason was we weren't sure how or what to introduce me into the, we knew going into this that, there'd be a large amount of people that were going to shit on it because I was Eric Bischoff's kid. The only reason you're here is because you're Bischoff's kid. You suck, blah, 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 which there still is, and at the end of the day, I don't care what anybody's opinion is of me. But we wanted to try to figure out the best way to introduce this so that at least had a chance.
Right. Make it a little easier to palate.
Yeah, at least a half a chance of making, just making sense and giving it an opportunity for a story to work before people crapped on it. So by doing that, when I came into TNA as a referee in Jackson James, nobody, not even in the locker room, knew who I was. I was Jackson James. I was not Garett Bischoff.
Right.
Nobody in the boys didn't know. Production didn't know. The only people that knew were my dad, Dixie Carter, and maybe a handful of other people. Nobody knew. We kept it a secret. And the Hebners, Brian Hebner and Earl Hebner, the two referees, they knew. They're old school guys, and we knew they could keep a secret. And they're the ones that really helped teach me the referee side of things as well. They were
right.
So by doing that, not only did they give the audience a chance to hopefully digest what we were trying to do, but it also gave me an opportunity to make some relationships in the locker room as well, without any bias, without anybody going, spoiled punk kid just in here because he's daddy's kid, So by the time they sort of figured out who I was, they had already had an opportunity to get to know me a little bit, and it ended up working out really good.
So
it was fun, keeping it a secret for a while too.
Right. So they end up introducing your character. They introduce that you are Garett Bischoff, the son of Eric, and they make you out as foes.
Mm-hmm.
And is that the same reasons? Like,
yeah, we went back and forth with that too. We were kind of, a lot of this stuff, we're just like, hey, let's kind of wait to see what happens organically. Can't always force this stuff, so you kind of got to play it by ear. So I wasn't sure. It's like, oh man, if I come out, people are probably going to want to hate me because everybody hates Eric Bischoff. He's the bad guy. That's what everybody knows him as, is, the bad guy, which means you're probably going to want to, that's what's going to be me, even worse. So it's like, how do we do this? Do we just come out right out the gates as a heel and then try to work towards the baby face? We come out as a baby face and hope that they want to see Eric Bischoff get his ass kicked by his kid. What are we going to do here?
Right. And they have Hulk Hogan as your trainer, right? So
yeah, we got Hogan involved, and we said there's that was time AJ Styles was hot, which still is, but he was on fire. We had him involved. There's a lot of those guys with the immortal characters. Ric Flair was involved at that time. Right. So there was a lot going on. And I had the opportunity, Sting was part of that, here and there. So it was cool. But all in all, it was a pay-per-view, and we did it as a, behind the scenes camera saw, revealed Dad and myself, getting ready. I was referee, and it was Hogan and Sting going out for that match. And, it's like, you better, I know, we did the right thing. You're going to make sure we take care of you. And I was like, And then I had a change of heart at the end of the match, and ended up turning on my dad in the middle of the match. I wouldn't hit him with the chair, or wouldn't let him hit them with the chair. I took the chair from him, and I ended up taking the chair shot instead.
Right.
But that's kind of how, and then I went babyface. Then that started a whole other story with, me and my guys' babyface team against Dad and his squad of goons, so to speak.
Yeah.
Which was great, because then we had a storyline, which is what we were talking about a little bit ago, which reached out for like a whole year. We could play that story arc for a whole year, which led to a lockdown match. After a year later, where Team Garett went against Team Eric.
Right.
In a steel cage with the weapons and everything else. And that's when the payoff was, essentially. And my dad and I, at the end of the match, beat the shit out of each other, which my mom, I'll tell you this, she didn't speak to either one of us for like 2 days. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. But, that was a lot. I just crammed into a 3 minutes of storytelling, but it's, it ended up working out really good. And then after that, I ended up switching heel when we got going with the Aces and Eights.
Right.
Faction. And I had a ball. That was some of the most fun I've ever had in wrestling, doing the Aces and Eights thing.
So they always say don't meet your heroes, but so what was it like for you, like working with Hogan, with Sting, with Ric Flair, with those kind of guys who were, absolute legends in wrestling, still are relevant.
Right. There's really no words that I could put. It was just nothing short of epic. I grew up with these guys. I've known Rick and Hulk and Sting since I was 10 years old.
Right.
I can remember when I was running around the locker room, and they'd let me come hang out with them in the locker rooms, and they'd roll around in the ring with me. I can remember sitting in the back playing rummy with the guys. My dad would be looking all over the arena for me, and he'd find me in the back locker room playing gin rummy.
Right.
So to be able to have those memories, and then be able to 20 years later actually get in the ring with them on TV or on a pay-per-view, it's just awesome. There's no word that can actually explain it other than just pure awesome.
You still talk to those guys today?
Yeah. I haven't talked to Sting in quite some time. I ran into him a couple a ways back, and, good to say hello real quick. I still talk to Hulkster once in a while. He lives actually not too far from me. So we get to chit chat every now and then, and hang out, catch a beer every now and then. Rick, I still talk to Rick. He lives down in Tampa, so I haven't seen him in a minute, but he doesn't live too far. So we play text tag every once in a while, and, catch up, say hi. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun to be able to, like I said, spend my childhood hanging out with those guys, and then being able to work with them as an adult was pretty cool.
It's really cool.
Odds are, if you watch TV, you've seen plenty of ads for lawyers.
It's usually a lawyer telling you how great they think they are. But at the Verdoliak Law Group, it's different. It's always about the client.
In fact, all of us are actual clients, and we're here to proudly tell you how much the Verdoliak Law Group has done for us.
What impresses me most is how much the Verdoliak Law Group believes in their clients. They only get fees if they win, and they use their own dollars to take cases to trial.
It's that ability to fight for their clients and win at trial that has helped the Verdoliak Law Group recover over $9 billion, and the insurance companies know that.
$9 billion, over 30,000 clients represented, and almost 60 years in business. That's a testament to their strength, knowledge, and success.
In fact, call them with all your legal needs. Like the saying goes, if they've been around that long, they must know what they're doing.
If you're injured in a car or truck accident, any work-related injury, or as a result of a medical error,
Call Verdoliak Law Group.
Where it's always about the client.
Injured? Call Verdoliak Law Group.
So I want to ask some questions just as a casual wrestling fan.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was talking through like all this the other day. I'm like, okay, I got to ask these questions. And I'm a firm believer in, the magic behind the curtain and all that kind of stuff. So I want to ask these questions in specific ways. Like, obviously we know these guys are the most elite. You guys are the most elite world-class athletes. And all those kind of things. But there also is the storylines. There's the drama. There's all that goes into it. And it seems like in most like if I'm relating that to music for me, or baseball or whatever. So you have these different kind of levels that you go through, right? As an artist, I got to play the crappy clubs to move up to the better clubs, to play, the theaters, to play the arenas, to play the stadiums. If you're baseball, you're going to start in single A, you're going to move up and all this stuff. And it seems like, the logical thing is when you're competing at that top level, so you're doing the WCW or the WWF or WWE, whatever it is now, you get to work with the best, right? So you're working with the best athletes, you're working with the best riders, you're working with the best choreographer, or whatever's, you're surrounded by. So seems like once you get there, I don't want to say it's easy, but you're surrounded by the best. So it makes life a lot easier, right? So my question is, as you're moving up, how do you like it if you're a brand new wrestler and you're wrestling in local leagues or whatever it may be, local circuits, like who decides what's the storyline going to be? How do you coordinate? How do you choreograph whatever you're going to do? Because I would assume at the top level, you can spend a week getting ready for a pay-per-view match, or a month, or whatever it's going to be. And at the lower levels, it's probably not that way, right?
No. So basically with the lower level and with wrestling, it's the independent circuit, the indie scene. With the indie scene, it's whoever the promoter is for that, that independent company is the one who's at the end of the day is going to tell you what he wants you to do. Now they don't have a whole lot of control like the bigger companies do. So like if someone on an independent scene down here in Florida, if an independent promoter comes up and goes, well, I want you to, climb up on those rafters. I want you to take a dive through a table, and then I want you to cut yourself and bleed. I'm gonna go, no, we're not doing that. And then if you didn't, then I'm not gonna do it. Now, you're at WWE and they go, here's what we want you to do. You're gonna do it.
Right.
That's just the end of the story. You can try to politic your way out of it and come up with a reason. They may work with you, they may not. But on the independent circuit, there's you have to protect yourself, and you have to protect whoever you're in the ring with, and whoever you're in the ring with needs to help protect you. It's a two-way street,
right?
So
how far out are those things being worked out on a like local independent level?
Find out that we'll figure it out that night. If I have a show at 8:00 at night, I'm probably figuring it out around 5 about what we're gonna do. And
so how in depth do those conversations go?
Not too. Usually they're pretty basic conversations. Typically these are pretty, they're pretty basic matches. And I'm not putting. It's not a bad thing.
No, for sure.
Actually, the more, I think a big problem with these days is that everybody tries to go out there and do, cram 10 pounds of shit in a 2-pound bag, and they try to, do everything that they know how to do in a 5-minute match, and it just becomes a cluster. It's like us watching a Super Bowl in an aquarium. It's like bing, 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 bing. It's too much. So basic is better. But because of that, there's not too much to really discuss. I personally have a hard time remembering things anyways. I don't like to try to remember every single move of every single match. It doesn't work for me. Some people can. Some people like that. I don't. I like to figure out how to start. I like to figure out a good spot or two in the middle to do something. And we're going to figure out the promoter's going to go, you know, Bischoff, I want you to win tonight. Or, you know, Briscoe, I want you to go over tonight or whatever. They'll tell us who they want to win. And then it's really they leave it up to us to figure out how we get to that. They tell us what they want, and then they really leave it up to us to figure out how to get there. As long as we give them the end results that they're looking for, generally they let us kind of pave our own way.
Right. So are you talking through that with your competitors? You're going through the match? Like how much communication is going on?
Yeah. We communicate. We'll talk it over a few times before we get out there in the back, you know, say, okay, well, you know, let's a couple big things that I definitely want to get in. Okay.
Right.
Or sometime in this area, that's when watch out for this and I'll let you know when it's coming. You know, so we'll pick a couple big spots where, you know, it's okay, let's make sure we hit these. And this will be about the time of the match when it's like a beginning, a middle, and an end in a book. You know, you got to have an exciting open to get people interested. You got to have a hook, right?
Right.
And then you got to keep them going. You got to have some of that gradual. Oh shit, the baby face is down. What do we? Well, you got to get them cheering. You know, so you bring the crowd up, and then you got to settle them back down. And then you got to bring them up again, and then you settle them back down. And then that last time you bring them up, now you got to keep them. You know, so there's a little bit of storytelling there, just like a song. You know, if you're writing a song and it starts out, you know, at level 2, and it never really goes any more than level 2.5, you know,
right. There's no dynamics. It's not good.
Dynamics. There's no depth to it. It's the same thing. It's storytelling 101. You got to have a good beginning to get people interested and hook them. You got to have a good middle, you know, to keep them interested. And then you want to give them the badass ending of the story that they want. And which is generally, the good guys winning. The only time bad guys winning works is if there's a follow-up to that bad guy getting beat the next time. That's why, like TV matches, when you see shows on television, you can get away with letting the bad guys beat and do bad, cheat like scumbags and beat and win for 3-4 weeks at a time, because eventually you'll get to see them lose. With independent shows, that crowd's not going to get to see them again. The chances of you two wrestling each other again in front of that crowd in that same story is next to none. You see what I'm saying? So
right.
Independent shows, you usually typically you want the good guys to win. You want to leave the crowd happy with what they want.
Right. I mean, you want them to come back for the next, whatever they bring through next.
Yeah, I mean, it's the old David and Goliath. Everybody wants to see people like bad guys, but at the end of the day, you want to see the good guys win.
Right.
Which is human nature.
So you kind of touched on this a little bit, and I wanted to ask you kind of a little more about it. Obviously, it's a very physical sport that comes with risk and all that stuff. You know, there's been times when we've seen things go wrong. You know, the Owen Hart, and which was not a in the ring thing. You know, that was a malfunction, and in '99 where he falls to his death. But what kind of things do you guys do to keep each other safe? And do you feel like that it's progressed and got more safe through the years?
So obviously communication is a big thing. Not rushing, know your craft, know what you're capable of, not capable of. It's okay to not be good at something. If you're not good at doing moonsaults and backflips, then don't get on the fucking ropes to do a backflip. It's pretty plain and simple. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Don't get outside of your comfort zone too much to the point where you're going to injure yourself or who you're in the ring with. It's pretty simple. Other than that, just conditioning. I mean, stay up on what you're doing. You gotta stay up on what you're doing. Keep honing your craft. Always be going. That's a lot of the reasons why I don't get in the ring too often anymore. And when I do get in the ring, I keep it stupid simple.
Right.
Because I don't get in the ring every day anymore. I don't want to go out there and hurt myself, and I definitely don't want to go out there and hurt who I'm in the ring with. there's a trust there. And if you break that trust, it'll haunt you forever.
For sure.
But accidents happen. Accidents do happen. More times than not, it is just that. It's purely accident. It's nobody's out there to hurt anybody intentionally. I tell you what, the wrestling business is built off of respect. When you get brought into this business, it is beat into you over and over and over. Respect and humble. So very rarely do you meet somebody who is an arrogant, disrespectful jerk. Who's in, it happens just like anything else. It happens, and they're out there. It's rare, and they usually won't make it far.
Right.
You get chased out of a locker room real quick. I think that was the first part of the question. What was the second part of that question?
Do you feel like it's gotten safer over the years? Like,
yes and no. I mean, they've done things like take away the chair shots to the head. They limit the big risk, the high risk stuff a lot more now, at least in WWE does. Recently I've seen some things going on other promotions on TV that I would go, what the hell are you letting your guys do this for? It's not my show. And if they're up there willing to do it, then I guess whatever. That's your body. If you feel like taking dives off tops of ladders to concrete floors and whatever. But they've done some things. The argument to what I just said was that people are so used to seeing things now, they're numb to it. So to get a reaction out of the crowd, you have to do something bigger and more explosive than what they saw last week. You see what I'm saying? So people are trying to do, and they're trying to get more bang, more excitement. And how do you do that? Well, by taking higher risks and doing those half gainers from the top of a balcony, or the rafters. So, I guess they've done certain things, but then on the other hand, it's like now you have to do just brutal things to get a reaction out of the crowd anymore, just because the audience has become so numb to it.
Right. So where do you see the sport going?
Oh, it's not going anywhere by any means. I mean, it's just getting more and more. It doesn't have, I don't think it has the excitement like it used to, like what you were talking about in the 90s. Like when you and I were watching it back then, there was still that unknown. People still got sucked in and believed. Right. David Copperfield didn't get his bag of tricks shown. You know what I mean? Nobody had a peek behind the curtain.
Well, I was listening to a podcast early, one of your dad's podcasts earlier, and he was talking about just the effect of live TV and how you had to watch because you didn't know what was going to happen. And he didn't promote weeks in advance, hey, this person's going to show up, or we're going to do this like they do now. They tell you everything they're going to do before the episode ever starts. And there was no internet, or it was in its infancy. We didn't have a computer. No phones had the internet, if you had a phone. So there was, you had to live in the moment then.
Correct.
So it's definitely a different world.
It is. And it's kind of sad. I mean, wrestling's not going anywhere. It's just going to keep doing what it's doing. And WWE is still going to fill arenas. That's not going to go away.
Right.
It's a machine that can't be stopped.
Yeah.
It's exciting right now for wrestling with AEW. AEW's doing cool stuff. Are they ever going to be as big as WWE? I don't think so. But they're doing a hell of a job. They're making noise. They're putting butts in seats too.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch. And it's something different. That's what made WC. That's what made it so fun back then. It was not just WCW. There was not just WWE. Yeah, or not just WCW or just WWF. It was the two. So you had a choice. It was two different. It's like two different flavors of. Baskin Robbins didn't get famous because they only sold chocolate ice cream. They got famous because they had 31 freaking flavors to choose from. It's more
Right.
fun when you got more to, it's like this week I want chocolate, next week I want strawberry, so it's fun to watch now again. And, and Impact's still on. So you got Impact, you got AAW, you got WWE, and they got multiple shows, obviously. So it's a fun time for wrestling. And indie wrestling is kind of making a comeback again.
Right.
And more of these independent internet channels are picking up independent wrestling shows. So it makes it fun,
Yeah.
It's still alive and well. It ain't going anywhere.
So what was your finishing move?
It's called the numbskull, which happens to be one of my nicknames. But yeah, it was a snap mirror driver. So I'd grab you here, your face would be here. We'd both go down to the mat. So I'd drive your forehead down into the mat. Called it the numbskull.
That's awesome. So do you have a favorite wrestler?
Yes, I guess, but not in the sense that they're not like everybody else's favorite wrestler.
Fair.
I've always looked at it from a different way, but I was always a huge fan of Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. The way he worked in the ring and the way he sold was awesome. I tried to watch a lot of his stuff, and not only was he a nice guy, but
Right.
I always enjoyed watching him work. One reason I like watching Dolph Ziggler so much, he reminds me of the way Kurt Hennig worked a lot.
Yeah.
Yep,
That's cool.
Kurt Hennig is the
So-
person I could have got in the ring with.
I wanted to ask you about something else too, because I thought this was really interesting. You studied firearms technology in school.
Mhm.
What led you to do that? And what do you do with that degree?
So after wrestling, after my last contract with TNA ended, I got a phone call one day through a friend of a friend, someone I had met through wrestling and done one of his podcasts. And he had gotten involved with a college by the name of Sonoran Desert Institute, based out of Arizona, Scottsdale, which happens to be where I lived at one point. And I've always been a gun guy. I've grown up around firearms, hunting, sports, sport shooting, just collecting. I've always been a firearms guy. My grandfather was a gunsmith back in his day. So ever since I was little, I've been handling firearms. I've always been intrigued by it. So he called me up one day. He goes, "Hey, how would you feel about maybe doing one or two, showing up at one or two of these events, maybe that SDI is doing, and just be there as a celebrity kind of thing. We'll pay you and just kind of put the school over." Sure, why not? Payday's payday, and I like guns, so sure. That's
Right.
easy. Well, I enjoyed that school so much that I ended up getting hired there. I ended up becoming one of their field guys, where every weekend I'd travel around the United States and go to gun shows and basically try to recruit students for the school. And as I was doing that, I was like, well, I might as well go through the program and do some of the training myself. So that's what I ended up doing. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. So basically the school teaches gunsmithing. And you can earn up to an Associates of Science with them in firearms technology. I never went all the way through with the associate's degree. Once again, I'm not a school person. I did the firearm side of things, but going into doing math, history, science, and all that prereq stuff, ain't gonna happen.
That's fair.
But I was with that school. I was with that place for a long time. I started off as like I said, as just a field representative, and I worked all the way up to the chair of public relations when I left. And wrestling helped with that. I was able. PR comes naturally. Like I'm used to promoting things. I'm used to talking to people. I can be in a crowd in a room and tell everybody, everything that you can ever want to know, and everything that you don't care to know about what we do. So that was very natural for me to fall into that position. And when we started out, we were just doing gun shows and military bases. And by the time I got my hands on that, on it, and started digging in, we were doing some of the biggest expos in the United States that they do. Not just gun shows, but we were doing law enforcement events. We were doing big 4-day sportsmen's and outdoor expos, and It was. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I was a part of a team that got to help. I got in early. I got to help build a pretty cool thing. And then, when my time was to go, it was my time to go, and time to move on to other things. But I very much enjoyed working there when I did.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Mhm.
And also just so you have your own company, One Bad Cat.
Yeah, I it's not very active anymore.
Okay.
It was one of those things that it was a clothing line.
Right.
I used it to promote while I was wrestling, and I had my own shirts. I still own all the trademarks. I still have everything. I just got busy. It was one of those things. Either I got to dump a lot of money and make this to the next level, or let's just kind of, keep it as a novelty. And every once in a while, I'll do some run. I'll make some shirt runs, and I'll take them to those or something with me. But yeah, so it's still. But you never know. I may fire something back up with it again. You never know.
Yeah. So what are you up to these days besides being a dad and a husband?
Yeah,
Your wife and your little one.
Yep, you got to meet my son Waylon. Our son Waylon. He's 10 months, almost 10 months old. So he's been keeping us both busy here over the last 10 months, and nothing but awesome. And I would currently, for a job, I currently do outside sales for ABC Supply Company, which is a construction material supply company. We've fallen into sales in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Just kind of comes natural to me. I'm not one for just sitting around staring at a spreadsheet all day. I got to be jiving and talking to people and doing things. So I do that. My wife owns a spray tanning salon down in Tampa, Florida, which does, yes, come in very handy if I got to go on TV.
Yes.
You
sent me that email. I was like, that's awesome. I mean, I'm a firm believer in the spray tan. So no judgment.
Yeah, Glow Spray Tan in Tampa, Florida. She's been down there for about 7-8 years now. We've had the business. It's spray tanning only. And here just recently, we had business partners in the beginning, and we just recently bought those business partners out. So we own the business completely outright, and we also just closed on the property. So now we own the commercial property it sits on as well. So we've been making moves and just trying to get set up and make sure little man's set up for his future. And
is his future going to involve wrestling?
I hope not, but my dad hoped it didn't for me either, and we saw how that went. So
yeah,
you never know. I would take the same approach that my dad took with me. I would try to talk him out of it, let him know all the bad things about it, and then if he still wants to, then all I can do is support him. So
that's fair.
And I got a couple other things in the works that that I'm working on. Hopefully here soon, get something out of. But always got irons in the fire.
Hey, that's how we do it.
We stay busy between that, and I try to get out. We have a boat. Try to get on a boat whenever we can. I love being on my Harley. I ride with a good organization of people around here, which is a really cool thing. So just try to spend as much free time as I have with everybody. And, we have it's our 11-year anniversary coming up this Friday, July 1st, actually. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So we're going to I got a little beach house rented down in Indian Shores. We're going to go hang out on the beach for a few days.
Nice. Well, the next time we're back in Florida doing some shows, I'll hit you up. You got to come hang out with us.
Dude, I love that. I love country music. I grew up on country music. I'm a huge country. I like everything, but country music. I'd love to come out and hang on your shows.
Yeah, I'll hit you up. Man, I appreciate you doing this. It's been a lot of fun. If people want to find you, how do they find you?
It's at Garett Bischoff is my Instagram, and it's 1 R 2 T's. And then my Twitter account, my Garett Bischoff Twitter account got locked up. They locked me out of it. They took away my verification check mark. I never could. I've emailed them, and I can't get anybody to help me get back into it. I don't know what happened.
Well, Elon will fix that for you.
So, hey, yeah, I hope so. I have a backup account though. It's I can pull it up here and show you. It's at One Bad Cat Inc. That's one of the old ones I had started. So luckily, I still have And it says, it says at Garett Bischoff in parentheses, just because it was all, they locked me out of my old one. So
It's fair.
So yeah, those are the two social medias. I don't promote a whole lot of stuff on anymore. It's more or less just my kid and my dog.
It's fair.
Yep.
Man, anything we missed that you want people to know?
No. I mean, you get everything answered that you were looking for.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you intriguing me on all my casual wrestling questions and
anytime you want to do it again, you just let me know. I'm sure you can come up with another list of questions.
Yeah, for sure. Next time I'm coming down to Florida to do it though, because that spot looks awesome.
Well, hey, we'll do it here. We'll crack a couple full beers, maybe have a cigar or two. That'd be good. We'll do it in person. I like the sounds of that.
Let's go, man. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for doing this. All right, buddy.
Cool.
Have a good one.
All right, bud. Thank you again.
Thank you for listening to From the Shadow podcast. New podcasts are released every Tuesday. If you enjoyed this show, please share it with at least one friend and tag us on Instagram at From the Shadow Podcast. Also, it would help us tremendously if you would rate the podcast on Apple Music and Spotify. From the Shadow with Chad Bearden.